Hey everyone, let's make sure that everything is sounding good. Alright. You know what? Let's check. Do you have... Hey everyone, let's make sure that everything is sounding good. Headphones. Alright. You know what? Let's check. Hey, no, that's okay. I'm just going to check and make sure the stream is sounding good. Sounding clean. Hey, no, that's okay. I'm just going to check and make sure the stream is sounding good. Alright. Cool. It sounds good, but I need to bring down the music a bit. Alright, so I'm going to bring down the music a bit. Give me just a second, guys.
Bring it down, bring it down.
Settings.
You have like some Midnight Syndicate or something in the background?
No, it's just one of the beats that Mahalo made for us. All right, so there we go. All right, we got the beats in the background. Let us know if the music is too loud in the background. What up, Cobra Kai? What up, Movie Mike? What up, Nolan?
Movie Mike.
Giants
Yo.
fan. And Sophia Isabel, thank you always for the support. Much appreciated. So yeah, guys, we are here to catch up on some stuff. We have not done a review roundup since January of this year.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of films to catch up on.
But it's been a transitionary year with me going back to school, with you finishing up Dylan's New Nightmares.
Yes.
So there's most definitely been like a lot going on, and we're trying to maintain as best we can with, you know, the most comprehensive coverage possible.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
You know what? I think the music might still be just a bit too loud, so I'm going to bring it down just a little bit more.
Yeah, it's tough to reach the levels of like our homie Jason on Sinister Cinema with
Dude,
like
he watches
covering
everything.
Straight
up. Shout out to Jason and Callie from Sinister Cinema Reviews. Awesome dude who recommended my most recent review on the channel, When Evil Lurks, which I think is a top 10
Spanish
contender.
Film, if I'm not mistaken, right?
What's that?
It's a Spanish film, right?
It's a Spanish, Argentinian, yes, so they speak Spanish.
Okay.
But yeah, it takes place in Argentina, which is apparently where Terrified took place too.
It did.
I've learned this from the comments
Buenos
on my
Aires,
review
right?
already.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah, no, yep, also Spanish speaking. The director is very talented, and I wouldn't have known about the movie.
He did one of the segments in Satanic Hispanics as well.
Oh, did he really?
I just don't know which one. I would have to
consult,
really quickly.
I didn't realize, because that wasn't listed on the, or at least not directly on the IMDb that I saw when I looked it up. But, alright, cool. So, yeah, guys, we got a lot to talk about here.
And also, it's like...
Oh, thanks. Vegemite Smile, what's going on?
Yeah. And
Vegemite
also...
Smile is in Australia, if you didn't know.
Interesting.
I
mean, yeah, shout out to Spooky, you know, one of our buddies who is...
Spooky Astronauts, Emma.
Yeah,
awesome.
Emma.
Awesome. Alright, so I'm going to rearrange the screen here so we can see the stream and the comments at the same time. There we go. Alright, When Evil Lurks, I'm looking forward to. Cobra Kai, absolutely catch that movie as soon as you can. It is, I will say, I think it's hard. When I made a top 10 list earlier today.
Did you?
Because Jason Smith asked, he's like, what's your top 10 list? I'm curious to know how much we line up. And I was like, oh, okay. So I reviewed the past year, and I chose
I'm looking at my letterbox right now.
Dude, for whatever reason, my diary doesn't update after 2022 in March. So, like, it's hard to see what movies I've actually reviewed and everything. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
I don't know quite how to arrange it so that maybe you can help me fix it.
Yeah, I just make a list on Letterboxd from Black being one of my personal favorites.
From Black is on the top 10 list.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll go through it real quick. I don't care.
Rebirth is easily one of my personal favorites.
Jason said that should be one of his too. I don't remember liking it as much during our review.
Oh, you and I were into it, man. I mean,
I remember being into it, but I don't remember like loving it enough to make it a top 10.
That was the one with Marin Ireland where
was
using...
It was the girl from Scrubs, too.
Oh, yeah, it was. It was the girlfriend of Faison, right?
It was the girlfriend of
Donald Faison.
Donald Faison, yeah, exactly, Carla.
Yeah.
I
didn't watch Scrubs a lot, so that's probably why I'm a little ill-versed in said regard, you know. But
what happened? I don't know what happened. Cobra Kai, is everything good? Can you guys not? You can't hear us? Can't see us? What's going on? Friend no, you can hear us and see us. Okay. I gotta post this. Okay, cool. There we go. Post that. What happened? Did we go away for you? I hope not.
I mean, as we approach spooky season in October, everybody likes to put out one of those like best of the year so far sort of situations.
I've been seeing that a lot,
you know, because of the fact that there is such an onslaught of content that comes out in October. There was like what 8-10 new releases just this past week, and then the 13th is going to be a similar situation. So
yeah, and then
it's mass madness, you maniacs.
The one I was talking about, When Evil Lurks, hits Shudder on October 27th,
and that's why I didn't seek it. I mean, I had finals this week, and so I just
I know, but the only reason I did is because Jason said, he's like, it's 1,000,000%. Where, you know, he actually said way more than that. He typed a bunch of zeros. Yeah. He's like, it's absolutely worth seeing in the theater. So I went, and I'm super glad I saw it in the theater, because talking about it 20 days early, you know, 3 weeks early, that's dope. It's worth it. Yeah. It's worth it. It's so good. I can't wait. You buffered for a second, but now it's good. Oh shit! Okay, sorry guys. Apparently, it wasn't just one person that had us buffer, but
well, that's the thing. I mean, we have press for the like bigger, more pivotal releases, and then that's why I maintain my AMC A list so that I can see everything else. And so,
Trippy Critic asks, "What you drinking, Fuego?" Let's give him a little rundown. We normally haven't done that in a while, so mine is my typical. It is
Negro Modelo. I'm living up to the Mexican name right there, or my silly moniker.
I have 2 shots of vodka, 1 small can of pineapple juice, and a splash of crayon grape. That's what I'm drinking.
Yeah, it has been it's been an eventful week, and without getting into any specifics.
Cheers, Fuego.
Between
to
finals,
getting through it.
Between finals and a lot of other things, that are happening personally, it's been interesting.
All right, so we have a lot of stuff to get to.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't get it back on. Wait, we're not. It's still going on my stream in the background, so I'm not sure what's going on. I'm sorry if you're having trouble there. Looks like Cobra Kai's having some issues. But let's get into it, Fuego. We have a lot of movies to review. So the first one is gonna be 65. Did you ever get around to seeing this?
Oh yeah. Okay. I saw it in theaters. I don't think you did. Yeah, I saw it in theaters. I was dude. It's a futuristic sci-fi dinosaur movie. I was so hopeful that this would be good.
I didn't make time for it in the theater. I waited till it dropped on streaming, and I gave it a watch. And man,
it's not terrible, but it's really very meh.
It's so meh. Yeah, it's the definition of MEH.
Yeah, and it was just. I mean, I liked the relational aspect with him and his daughter. I thought that was really endearing and really cool. But I mean, most of the action felt kind of pedestrian, and I don't know. I'm a big fan of Adam Driver. It doesn't matter what sort of situation they're putting him in, whether it's Star Wars or whether it's more dramatic stuff like House of Gucci. I dig him very much as a performer. He's a little odd in the fact that he never watches his movies after he makes them. He has some weird phobia about that. Yeah. He never, he doesn't even watch the dailies from what I understand, which is crazy. But, it just, this was missed potential in my estimation.
Agreed.
What do you think?
No, I think so too. It ended up being a lot more boring than it should have been. And the storytelling aspects felt oddly forced, like the relationship, the lone wolf and cub of it all, which has been redone so many times. The language gap and the fact that you find out things very quickly, like, oh, his family's already dead, so there's nothing really to do here that's, you don't really care about very much. And then the goofy sort of, ooh, look at what time it actually is towards the end that gives this faux ticking clock, and it's like, meh. It just, very meh.
You didn't really feel the sense of urgency with that ticking clock. It was like there was no sense of uncertainty about whether it was going to get figured out. And I mean, the dinosaur action was okay, but in some ways, I actually felt like the look of these CGI creatures wasn't on par with what we've seen from the Jurassic franchise and stuff. So it's. Man, I mean, it took them a while to release this. They kept delaying it, and it's probably because they knew, Yeah. And I think Sam Raimi was a producer, if I remember correctly. But oh well.
Well, it didn't make enough of a difference to have him produce a substandard script. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So, all right, that is 65.
These were important people who were involved in this film, if I remember correctly. Man, I have to double check, but I think it was the. it was the Quiet Place writer-directing team that... Okay, no, it was the people who did Haunt. I'm being a derp.
So the next one, there's going to be a number of films that's going to be, Fuego only discussion, and the next one is one of those. Although I do want to see it, I have not gotten a chance to see Beau is Afraid yet. So, Fuego, what is the review for Beau is Afraid?
Beau is Afraid is bonkers, man. This film...
Beau is bonkers.
Dude, it really is. It's the most indulgent sort of film. Like, Ari Aster has actually said that this was his passion project, and so he made more mainstream stuff. Like, I loved
Hereditary and Midsommar are considered mainstream to him.
I loved Hereditary. It was a very straightforward sort of film in said regard, and Midsommar was essentially a remake of The Wicker Man in a lot of ways. So yeah, he was going for more straightforward stuff. Watching this, you will understand the distinction where this is not a straightforward film. It's 3 hours long.
Right.
It's in 3 acts, and it shifts within its tone so significantly amongst the 3 acts. The first film is like the epitome of just, if you've ever felt like, anxious and like just scared for no reason about stuff, hence the title, Beau's Afraid. Dude, this film was like upsetting me in the first hour. It's very hyper-realized in the fact that he's living in this rundown apartment. He has a bad situation with his mother. He has like crime-riddled craziness transpiring outside of his home constantly. I mean, like, a gang of people break into his home and start having a party and like destroying things. It's like, and then the second half turns into like this self-reflection about like what I could have done with my life. And then the third act is almost like Pink Floyd's The Wall in one of the last songs on The Wall, The Trial, and about just the mother criticizing and everything, and the mommy issues. Dude, Ari Aster has major mommy issues, as this film very much entails, and I want to do like a full proper review of it, because at first I didn't like it, but then it was one of those films that just like sat with you, and it just made you think about the craziness of it, and just the fact that it actually got made. A24 gave him like $30 or $40 million to make this crazy movie that bombed at the box office and had mixed reviews. And so, yeah, that's my thoughts about this intriguing yet very strange movie. And it's probably one of my favorites of the year. It's really fucking weird, though. So yeah.
I'll give it a try once it's on streaming. I'm not going to pay for it.
Yeah,
but
it's not there yet. I didn't see it in theaters.
Nolan, the Giants fan, says it's his favorite of the year. It's a wild movie.
It's nuts, dude. Yeah, it's bonkers was what I was saying earlier. But,
Movie Mike says, crime, bad apartment, and weird relationship with his mother. You just described Joker. Also,
in a lot of ways,
although Phoenix, Joaquin.
Although once again, Ari Aster had been working on this film for like over a decade, from what he's said in all of his press touring and stuff like that. And so maybe he like just altered some inspiration a little bit, but it's one of the weirdest movies I've seen maybe like in the last decade. So
fair enough. All right, so after that we have the 6th season of Black Mirror that we never discussed on the channel,
and this I never watched.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, didn't watch it.
I did give it a look. I thought you had it clicked as something you were watching. Okay.
Maybe I misclicked.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I did watch it, and I didn't fully jive with it. I think that a couple of the episodes are definitely better than the rest. It was a more horror-leaning version of Black Mirror than we'd gotten in a while, which was good.
There's an episode with the Breaking Bad guy that I've heard is one of the standouts. Aaron Paul.
Yep, that is a really good episode. It's really entertaining. It's the last 2 episodes. I don't fully remember that well because I watched them late at night, sort of situation. But it was overall I was like really good for the first like few episodes, and then it started to like deteriorate just a little bit. It's only a 6-episode season, so it's really quick.
Well, that's the way it was back when it was still on BBC or Channel 4 or whatever the hell it was when they were British. So I still, it's a franchise that as it migrated over to the States, I felt like maybe the quality lessened a little bit, even though I haven't seen this season, so I can't really criticize properly. But
it has its ups and downs like any season does.
Yeah, especially from an anthology standpoint. And I mean, few things can compare to like just the despair of the Toby Kebbell episode where the little implant in the eye and recording everything and realizing your partner is cheating on you and all that craziness. Like that's heavy shit. So yeah, nothing reached really that emotional sort of stuff. Again, it was a little more surface level, but it was still an intriguing season. It just didn't really blow me away like some of the past seasons had. So did you ever do the choose your own adventure? I never did get around to Bandersnatch. Me neither. Marcia did, I know, but she unfortunately is not here to discuss it. Yeah, Marcia, we miss you. Was Cobra Kai's favorite episode of Black Mirror season 6, which was a good one. It was a good one. Zach Gale joins saying When Evil Lurks was ridiculously good. Agreed. That's the review I put up earlier today. Well, the burden of expectation is it's raising exceedingly at this particular point. I know. Well, that's the thing. I went into it knowing that it was Jason's top of the year, and I was like, oh boy. Yeah, and it was he saw it on Thursday night, right? He saw it. No, he saw. I don't know. He might have seen a screener for it. Or something, but no, he did. He went and saw it immediately. Yeah, Thursday with Callie and everything. Again, shout out to Sinister Cinema Reviews. Yeah. Check out Sinister Cinema, man. He is doing so much comprehensive content right now. It's really cool. But yeah, he recommended When Evil Lurks, and I was like, "Is it worth going to the theater?" And he sent me a text back with like 1 and about 30 zeros afterwards with a percentage saying, "Sounds about right." Yeah, 100,000 million billion %. It is worth going to the theater, and it turns out he's right because it's the same writer-director as the guy that did Terrified in 2017, and that is one of my favorite horror movies of the past decade, easily. It was really, really good, man. I love international horror in that regard. Some of my favorite entries of this past year have been of that, not U.S. variety. So, right. Yeah. Vegemite Smile says, I didn't like the last episode of Black Mirror, but as it went on, it totally won me over. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, so moving on from Black Mirror Season 6, the next one is a movie called Blood. I have not seen this. This is one that you had marked. It's one of my favorites of the year. Really? Wow, that's good. It's maybe in my it's in the upper 10, so it's not. But I mean, just the it is in the top 10. You think? In my estimation, I love this actress. I'm trying to remember her name, Michelle Monaghan. Yeah. She is so good in this as her. What else is she as in? Her child. I recognize the name. I think she was in maybe some of the Mission Impossible films. I mean, I can't recall specifics, but so she is dealing with a travesty of a situation with her son essentially becoming a vampire, or maybe not even specifically a vampire, but just like somebody who has somebody who has like a cannibalistic thirst for blood. Couple of Mission Impossibles, like 3 of them. And so and so she is essentially trying her best to not even so much change his mind, but like be that motherly sort of compassionate character where she's just like, I'm gonna coddle you as you're doing all these horrible things, and yet from a performance standpoint, it doesn't really go like insanely heavy in the gore sort of situation or anything, but it's a tragic story and it's really sad, and she is exceptional in it as she is trying so hard to navigate a really insane situation. And yeah, she stands out, man. She really, really does in this film. Right on. I mean, I saw it back in January, so it's been quite a while. No, I get you. I know it's going to be the Again, we're batting cleanup for the year. We are. But the biggest thing was that just like her in a leading role as opposed to being part of an ensemble or like a minor character or whatever. Like she carries this film, and just the fact that her son actually at times in this film, you can tell he's trying to fight what is taking him over, and it's not happening. Well, it's nice to hear from you, who might be the biggest vampire fan on the channel,
And
it's
to
not
know
quite
it's a new
vampire, but yeah, it's
it sounds similar.
Oh, it does.
And the
it
fucking
does.
poster makes it feel like it.
Yeah, it does. It's really good, man. And
like a Rosemary's Baby, says Sky. Does that sound
close?
similar?
Close.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as just the vibe of the fact that it's not like full on visceral horror. It's far more on the dramatic side. You know, most notably from our lead lady, and she's great. She really is. She sells it, and without spoiling things, it's sad.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's sad.
We got the Ghost Pirate Entertainment in the chat. I felt Rebirth did the same thing as Blood, but went much better, my opinion.
Rebirth is in the upper half compared to the lower half.
Of the top 10? Okay, interesting.
10, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, Rebirth, honestly, the more I've thought about it...
Jason said Rebirth is that good too, but I remember that's one of the ones I actually saw from the Phoenix Film Festival, and I don't remember being that blown away by it. Do I need to rewatch the review? Do I just misremember? Was I super in love with it during the review and I just don't recall?
I think that maybe that was one that, like, I'm trying to remember if we reviewed it together or if I did it separate in like the little roundup aspect.
You may have done that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, fair enough.
I was a big fan of Rebirth, man. It's like that's in the upper echelon. This one, it's not quite as good, but it's still very compelling. You know, I mean, it's tough to rank these things a lot of the time.
So Cobra Kai asks, oh, excuse me. Oh, man. Good Lord. Cobra Kai asks, have you guys watched the new American Horror Story, Delicate? I'm
waiting until the entire season is available.
Yeah, that's what I think I'm going to do, too.
The fact that Kim Kardashian is in it is what's making
it's kind of off-putting.
And it's also based on a book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's the first time they've actually
consulted... his own story.
It's the first time they've consulted other material for adaptation purposes.
I don't know about that.
That's where... Yeah, I'm sure it's stylistically beautiful. The cast is great. Is it Emma Roberts?
Emma Roberts, yeah.
Little bitch face. Dude.
Whoa, Jesus.
Dude, no. Like, in the best possible way, though, dude. Ever since Scream 4, man, she has, like...
I can't call her little bitch face
She captivates me, man. She really does. I mean that in the nicest possible way.
No, that's Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah.
They're very close.
Sure. But I mean that in the nicest possible way, in the fact that she can effectively play that sort of character.
She can.
And just really
she's very
sell
believably
it,
cunty.
Yes. I feel like that's even worse than what I said.
Oh, it absolutely is, but she's playing characters that are cunty, and she's very good at it.
Yeah, very much so.
So Ghost Pirate Entertainment says, did you guys see Candyman yet? It's available for streaming on Tubi now. What's Candyman?
Candyman or Candyland?
Candyman.
No.
Yeah, because I know Candyland is one of the ones that we're going to be talking about in just a second.
Candyland is great, dude. Candyland is from... I have to double check his name because it always eludes me.
Emma Roberts is the niece of Julia Roberts? How did I never know that?
I didn't know that either.
Wow, is that right, Sky? That's interesting. Cobra Kai says it's bad, guys. Okay. Oh, American Horror Story is bad? Okay, fair enough. All right, well, we're going to move on.
I've heard American Horror Story is bad from a lot of people, unfortunately.
The next one we're going to talk about is... Oh, not Candyland. I'm skipped ahead. Brooklyn 45 is one that came out this year that I wanted to talk about.
We actually... We did do a brief little review.
A little one. It was part of an overall thing. I just wanted to give it more of a proper shout-out here because it is a good... what they call bottle film. It's a bunker story.
Yeah, and it's very much a stage play that was turned into a movie.
Well, it's not an actual stage play. He wrote it as a film, but it could be a stage play. Well, as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong. But nonetheless,
that's what I'm trying to double consult right
check it
now,
out.
actually.
But it's basically a one-room story of a God, what do you call those things? A seance gone wrong.
Yeah.
And what happens, but it's set during 1945, during World War II.
And that's where the essence of intrigue is so high because of the fact that, like, the mystery and uncertainty of the nature.
He talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about that next.
Candyland kicked ass, dude. I love that director.
We'll talk about it next.
Sorry.
All right. But Brooklyn 45, bottle movie, seance gone wrong during World War II. I mean, that's about as much as you need to say to get people to try it, but it's a well done independent horror feature.
And it's the same guy who did We Are Still Here, which I really loved. It had major Stephen King vibes to that, and I mean, I'm wearing the King shirt, and everything. So, yeah, it was was compelling because of the fact that you don't know the nature of a neighboring character, and it's like, especially with kind of the torturous aspect that it veers into at one particular point, which is really messed up. But I mean, you couldn't make a film like that unless you had a great ensemble of characters from an acting standpoint, man, and like everybody involved was just compelling, interesting, sold it, brought it, and yeah, major props in that regard. The director is Ted Geoghegan. I'm probably just totally messing it up.
Ted Geoghegan. Yeah, he's got a really tough to pronounce.
Yeah, he also did Mohawk, but he's written a ton of other films, and you know, just somebody who's making his name in the industry.
I follow him on Twitter.
He's back east. Shit, I actually think he follows me on Twitter too, because I sang so many praises about this film when I initially saw it as part of the International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival. That's where we both had the chance to catch this flick. So
Cobra Kai says, I heard the horror last video store is bonkers. I want to watch that. I just looked it up. It didn't really say it was horror that much, but I'm interested to find out more. All right, well, let's lean into Candyland then. We finished with Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Ghost Pirate says Candyland was good. This is the trailer. Is this the correct poster?
That's the correct poster.
All right, so tell us about Candyland. Why is Candyland so good?
The interesting thing about this particular filmmaker, and so John Schwab, I think he's in either like Ohio or somewhere in the Midwest, and he makes these really gritty, messed up sort of films. My personal favorite of his is a flick that starred Frank Grillo,
right.
And it was called Body Brokers, and it was about how the rehabilitation just system is not trying to actually cure people. It's just trying to cyclically get them to relapse and come back so they can continue to amass money. This one actually is probably the most horrific of what he's done, because it goes into like straight up slasher territory, and there's a girl who was essentially like, so it's about prostitutes, Candyland, you know, you can tell by that. It's about those who live in these, you know, just like little roadside dive motels and turn tricks and so on and so forth. But it's when a girl shows up who, man, she was in, God damn it, I'm trying to remember the film from last year that was just so ridiculously compelling that I saw her in, and I cannot recall it, so whatever. I'm not going to search and, you know, mess with everybody's time, but she's essentially escaped from a religious family, and she kind of gets into this crew of trick turners, prostitutes. And
is that a knife coming out of a crucifix in the poster?
It is. That's
dope.
Yeah, and so she starts to slowly go crazy, and well, she's probably already crazy, honestly. And she starts killing some of her fellow people without getting into super amounts of spoiler. And yet it's also just kind of a tragic plight and examination of those who have just whittled themselves down to this particular level. And so it is kind of that kind of intermingling of both horror and drama in that regard. But when it goes slasher, it goes pretty hardcore slasher, man, about, you know, just people getting very viciously stabbed up by this particular character, and yet you're still almost like feeling sympathetic for her because of all the abuse that she encountered and endured. And so I just love John Schwab, man. All of his films, I mean, he gained some notoriety by doing a film with Marilyn Manson called I Will Make You a Martyr, or excuse me, Let Me Make You a Martyr. And yet Manson was a minor character in that, but he's one of the few more modern filmmakers that everything he does, dude, is compelling to varying levels for me. Body Brokers is still his best, but this is really good. You know, he put on another film this past year. I think it was called Dixie. It was another one with Frank Grillo. He works with Frank Grillo a lot, which is interesting. But yeah, Grillo does a lot of different stuff. So yeah.
All right, so that's Candyland. Next, I wanted to talk about the first episode of the new season of Chucky. Did you watch this?
No, I did not.
So I did, and
it looks like it's going in a very, very different direction.
It is and it isn't. Like, okay. it is insofar as Yes, they still return.
Okay.
The trio returns.
Okay.
But so what happens is it starts off, and we see that Chucky has now appeared in the White House. The president, played of course by Devon Sawa,
returning,
and the first lady. They have a child who has befriended Chucky. Like, that's what we basically start off at. He's already in the White House, and he's starting to wreak havoc, and so much so that a Secret Service agent pays a dear
in the White
price.
House, he's killing people
in the White House.
Okay.
And it's interesting because you see how, but it's probably the most gory thing I've ever seen put to a TV screen. If it's on Sci-Fi and it did this, it was a suicide, right? A self-offing,
which I know is a very triggering topic.
We immediately,
anyway,
once YouTube got a hold of Dylan's New Nightmare because of that scene, we got age restricted, and so this shows someone blow their own head off, and it like really shows all of it happen and stuff like that. And it's super aggressive, super cool to see as a horror fan, you know what I mean? But really aggressive to see as a TV series. But nonetheless, so
this is where I have to ask you, because I know how much you love this franchise. Like, what are your thoughts about the direction that Mancini is taking this property?
I want to see this one play out more, because we didn't get much of Tiffany or anyone else in this one. The first two seasons were very much Seed of Chucky's sequels.
Yeah, Seed and Bride, and you know how much I love Bride. I don't really like Seed very much, you know.
So the first season was more of a sequel to Curse and Cult.
True.
The second season was more of a sequel to Seed.
Yeah.
And this one feels like it's kind of carving out a different pathway for itself.
So different from either.
The White House stuff feels like the Curse stuff. And they do mention Tiffany and what's going on, because remember, the blonde, her sister was taken by Chucky at the end of season 2, or taken by Tiffany at the end of season 2. So she, Devin and Jake, all
Jennifer Tilly?
No, the girl, the blonde.
Blonde.
So they all get a call from Chucky saying, I'm still around, blah blah blah, fuck you guys, and try and find me. And they realize by the end of the episode that he's at the White House, and so it's a really interesting setup. It's more Brad Dourif as Chucky, and it's a different. So this one again feels like it's closer to the Curse of Chucky side of things.
Okay.
But we, again, after only in one episode, we haven't even seen Jennifer Tilly and what all that is going on. So that might make it feel more like the Seed universe and stuff like that. But right now, it feels more like Curse of Chucky, but taking place at the White House. Which is, what's really interesting is that Devon Sawa's president and his wife are really fun to watch. Like, he's a really cool dad. As a president, he's meant to be the most transparent president, where he ran on the idea of transparency. So when weird shit starts to happen in the White House, the press is like, "You're the transparent president. What's going on?" And they have to be honest and stuff. So it's an interesting setup, right, for a season of Chucky, nonetheless. You know what I mean?
I'm just especially happy with the fact that Devon Sawa has seen this career resurgence recently. I think it's really dope, man. I mean, between what was that? Was it Hunter Killer, the one that we watched, where he was
Hunter?
Yeah. Great performance on his part, and the fact that Mancini is so enamored with him and just wants to keep recasting him in different roles, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So no.
Well, he always recasts his own actors in different roles in the Chucky universe and stuff like that. So.
Yeah.
Sky says, I feel personally with The Nun 2 and The Exorcist Believer, Insidious, The Red Door. A lot of them feel CG heavy, disinterested plots, low-key cash grabs, but they keep getting me with the dang promos. What's become of the horror community? Talk to Me and Scream 6 are a cute moment of the year. Talk to Me is great.
Talk to
When
Me
Evil
is
Lurks. When Evil Lurks to me is the most horror movie that horror fans would love, because it's unexpected and it does things different. Talk to Me was great because it has such fresh blood. It's not my number one of the year, but it's in that lower echelon as far as my top 5. It's in my upper top 5, I would say. Chucky in the White House, never saw that one coming. So goofy, I have to love it. Fair enough, movie, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the big thing that I will at least briefly say about the Nun 2, I actually prefer the original Nun.
Really? Okay.
I do. The fact that
I think the Nun 2 definitely was better, but not by much.
And a silliness to it. You know, it was very, and you know, somebody who helped out with our review of that, you know, compared it to Hammer Horror, and I think he was spot on about that. The fact that they kill a kid at one particular point is kind of crazy, and also I love the fact that there is one sequence on a newsstand that I thought was legitimately brilliant.
Yeah, that was good.
And it like elevates, you know, just kind of the prowess of the film.
So the next film we're going to talk about is briefly, I watched the Cube remake from Asia. And I think it's
on Scream.
I'm not sure if it's Korean or Japanese, but it was the remake of the original Cube. So largely the film does a similar thing. Instead of the first person being cubed by an electric grid, it's kind of cool. All these cube squares you see, each one shoots out like this metal thing, and so someone basically gets a cube chopped out of their midsection instead. But it's you know, a group of people that wake up inside this quote unquote prison, where every room is a cube, and they're all connected. Like every room has every room has 6 entrances and exits. There's one on every wall, and then a ceiling and a floor one. And they're trying to escape this quote unquote prison that they've been stuck in, but some of the cube rooms have traps waiting. And like they're horrifying traps that'll kill you almost immediately. And so this group of people have to try and band together to escape the cube if they possibly can. And it was an okay remake. I mean, Cube came out in the early 2000s, I believe, and
it actually did not.
Late 90s?
97.
Okay.
And this is something with the popularity of the... so you saw me consulting right now. It's because of the fact that, you know, with the popularity of Saw X and the fact that it's like one of the best, you know, between IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes and everything reviewed of the entire franchise, I was like, what came first? Cube came a number of years first.
Yeah, they did not do enough here to justify a remake. It's the same movie, just done in a foreign tongue, in my opinion.
Which happens often.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there was an Indian remake of, as in the country of India, you know, for Pennywise and for It. And so, you know, I guess stuff, there's probably lots of these remakes that we're not even, like, cognizant or aware of. So, so this felt...
If you watch the first Cube, you've seen this movie. Yeah. Okay. They made one little twist towards the end, but nothing that was really so gratifying that you're like, oh my god, you got to run out and see this. You could watch the original Cube, you could watch this Cube, you would get the idea of Cube with either one. So
then you prefer the original?
I prefer the original. Yeah. I love the series. Cube 2, Hypercube, and then Cube 0 was the prequel. Right? Yep. There were 3 Cube movies before this Cube reboot, and or remake rather, and they're all worth watching because they're all interesting for different reasons. But the idea of a prison where every room is booby trapped, it's very Saw. You know what I mean? So people that like Saw would definitely love the Cube movies.
James Wan maybe you know,
got an idea for some of it.
Lee Winnell gained some influence. And
what up, Elisa, I think. Carnahan and Corey Novak in the chat. All the Cube movies are entertaining. Exactly. Agreed. So this one is very much the first one though. So the next movie we're going to talk about, Fuego. Let's move right on to Dawn Breaks Behind the Eyes. You had this one marked. Do you remember it well enough to talk about it?
This one has been a hot minute, man. This was one of the January watches, if I remember correctly.
Just skim it if you can. If not, I can move past it.
Oh boy, this is a tough one to recall. This is about a quarrelsome couple who has moved into this new home, and there is like kind of nefarious things transpiring. That is really it was not one of the more memorable ones of the year, unfortunately. You know, which is why I could speak so much more to something like Blood or you know, yeah, this was one I don't recall very well, unfortunately. Sorry, mates. It obviously did not like resonate enough to just like make a massive impact. And
okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I think it was on Shudder, AMC Plus. I can't recall specifics. It was a very baroque and kind of gothic experience. You know, less on the horrific side and significantly more so on just tension between this couple and everything else going down.
Okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, it's not one that I recall very well, unfortunately.
Again, we don't plan to wait 9 months to do these, you guys.
Yeah,
so,
that's the tough
apologies
aspect.
about that.
That's the tough aspect. This is not one that I, would recommend, though, unfortunately. And I'm pretty sure, and I'm pretty sure it is still on Shudder.
So the next one is another one that was from earlier in the year too.
Let's see.
So Fear. Do you remember this one?
Fear was actually one that I went to a theater and saw. It was a primarily black cast, if I remember correctly, and so it was very much about just. God damn it! It's been so long since I've watched these, man. It's
Yeah, I mean, you guys, this is a roundup, it's all the movies that we've tried to watch throughout the year.
Yeah, if I recall specifics, this was one that did not really wow me.
Nighttime says Fear was so bad.
Well, it was just like generic sort of slasher and did not really do too much for me.
Movie Mike says, as much media as you guys consume, it's unreasonable to expect you to remember everything. Fair enough. I just wish I should have gone through the posters I pulled.
Yeah, the film was released in January 27th. Oh goodness,
that's all right. No worries.
Yeah, this is
Fear was just crap, says Ghost Pirate Entertainment. Fear was PG-13 crap. I have no idea why they made this a film. Okay.
Yeah, it was very generic. It was about a group of friends that were coming together at this house, if I recall correctly, and they were all like kind of partying and hanging out. It was like the more serious version of The Blackening, was the best way that I could describe it.
The Blackening was funny.
I loved The Blackening.
Yeah.
That was much more on like the scary movie side of
course.
like approaching the subject matter and everything. This was much more so just generic, man. Sorry.
No, it's good. Nighttime says Fear was just a bunch of adults and it had COVID in it. Okay.
Oh yes, that's right, because they're all and it's like the quarantine situation, and so that's why they all get tested. But once again, The Blackening did it so much funnier and significantly more interesting. Anyway.
Jamie Hart in the chat says hello. Cobra Kai says, have you guys seen the new stills from Joker 2? I'm worried it's being called a musical. I love Joker. Hope 2 is not bad. It's been billed as a musical for years now. Like,
well, they've been saying
we've
that
known Faux Adieu, or whatever it's called, is Joker Faux Adieu, I think is what it is.
Well, they're saying that there's going to be musical elements to it, but it's not.
I always heard it was a musical.
Full-on musical.
Who cares?
There's going to be musical numbers.
Let Todd Phillips do his thing. Let Todd Phillips cook. You know what I mean? He didn't let us down with Joker. Like,
dude, that's $1 billion movie.
You gotta keep in mind, Joker's from the perspective of a completely unreliable protagonist that's crazy. Of course a musical would make sense because the Joker's fucking insane.
Yeah.
So if he meets a girl that and you get an actress that can sing, fucking lean into it. You know what I mean? I love the idea that it can be partial musical or a full musical and still be a Joker movie. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well,
I'm totally confident in that. It's going to be so great.
Well, shit, man. Isn't the thing that we even saw in the original film is that as you further embrace your insanity, it becomes more gleeful? And so for that reason, it's like, hey, why not sing about how nuts you're becoming?
He already danced down the stairs when he kind of let his shit go in the first movie, so why not?
Where they played the Gary Glitter song.
Nighttime says, Blackening was definitely the better version. Fair enough. Alright, I trust Todd Phillips, says Cobra Kai. Good, yeah, us too. So, alright, so that's Fear. Now the next thing I want to talk about is Gamera Rebirth. This is a Netflix 6-episode series that is animated and computer generated, but it's its own story. It tells the story of this group of kids as they somehow weave in and out of 5 different kaiju attacks on the land that Gamera has to step in on. And it's really interesting. Gamera is basically your Godzilla replacement. For those of you that didn't know, Gamera was meant as a contender for Godzilla over the years and stuff like that. But this is the first new Gamera stuff that we've gotten in a while. And the monster fighting stuff was really cool. The story itself was less interesting. I found myself by the end of the series just fast forwarding to the monster stuff because I didn't really buy into the relationships and the story being presented otherwise. Now, I don't feel like that's a cultural thing, but I suppose it's possible. But I just didn't find the characters that interesting. I liked the monster fights.
Okay.
So if you're okay skipping and just going to the monster fights, boom, you're going to be totally happy with Gamera. If you want to give it a try and, you like monster anime stuff, give the story a try and see if it's up your alley. But we tried the first episode in full, and it just didn't do it for me, so I just skipped to the monster stuff for most of the rest of the time.
So since I haven't watched it, is it a 2D or a 3D situation with the animation?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a 3D animation.
It's a 3D, okay.
Yeah. But it's really good. The fights are so cool, because, again, animated kaiju fights, you can do so much more than you can with live action just because of the nature of the cost of effects. So they really go buck wild with the kaiju fights and stuff, and it's really dope.
Now, I totally forget, is Gamera Toho as well, or no?
I don't know for sure.
Okay,
I can't speak to that.
Yeah,
I feel like it was a
which
competitor to Toho, and it was a giant turtle creature instead that can somehow fly through space and turn into a whirring, buzzing saw blade.
Which is really interesting because of the fact that, Netflix has also procured, the Godzilla verse too,
Matthew
right?
Johnson, hello from Australia. We got Vegemite in the chat from Australia as well. We get a lot of Australian viewers. I love it.
Yeah, horror is big down there.
Yeah,
man.
Ghost Pirate says, I totally agree with Cecil. The Joker to be musical makes so much sense because the Joker is just nuts. So, absolutely.
Yeah.
I embrace my insanity, and there's a constant concert going on in my head, says Jamie.
It is sheer insanity, man. I mean, that's the thing. Like when... As I rewatched Saw X and, was just, kind of thinking about everything that Kramer is about and the fact that everything is so justified. I don't kill people. And I'm like, oh... You put people in situations to die, you're nuts. And it just, that's the definition of insanity, where you think that what you're doing is acceptable and you just gleefully revel in it. So,
Alright, so next up we can talk about the first 4 episodes of Gen V. I'm guessing you haven't watched it. I did watch it.
Haven't had the chance.
I love the Boys universe, so I was very excited about this. And it's so funny, Kevin Smith touched on it briefly in his recent live with Mark Bernard, and he's like, have you watched Gen 5 yet? I'm like, Kevin, it's Gen V, it's Generation Vought, because it's the group of kids that were experimented on by Vought. Like, come on, dude, it's Gen V. Give me a break.
He's starting to get there in his age.
He is. Like, I was like, no, he's not cool anymore.
Yeah, and as much as I love K. Smith, man,
he's out of touch.
And
he's got the touch.
Lacking the power.
Good job. Nice adjustment.
Well, I mean, because of the fact that I wasn't into Clerks 3 like you were.
Oh, dude, Clerks 3 made me bawl like a baby.
Yeah.
I loved Clerks 3. I thought it was, it's emotionally walloping. I don't think it's the best end for the story that he was telling, but I think it has an emotional wallop.
Yeah, I'm much more curious about this Mallrats 2 that he's still claiming he's developing, so we'll see.
Supposedly, well, he just filmed the 4:30 movie, so we know that's coming next. That's his next film, which he filmed at Smodcastle Studios, or Smodcastle Cinemas. Yeah, you haven't heard about the 4:30 movie? No, it's he made a movie that's specifically about a group of kids that are movie hopping, and something goes wild and stuff like that. Okay. So he filmed it at Smodcastle Studios, and it's something that they were like, yeah, we should just film a movie at the theater since we have a theater.
That's the theater.
And it's called the 4:30 movie.
Okay.
So anyway, back to Gen V. So Gen V is a story about all of the kids that were experimented on by their parents, or that agreed to let Vought experiment on them for a paycheck. And so all of these kids are at a college where it's just the kids that have been, affected by Vought International and given the serum that gives them powers. And so every kid has a different power, and it's like, it's basically, what happens at college with college kids, except when they have superpowers. And they don't hold back. Let me paint a picture for you. So there's a girl that... I
can imagine the debauchery is pretty heavy.
There's a girl that gets small, right? Okay. And so there's a dude that's hitting on her, and they are hooking up, and he's like, it'd be really great is if I could see you get small holding my member. And so there's a whole scene where this girl that gets small is hanging on to a fucking stage-sized dick and stomping on his balls. It's so The Boys, dude. They built a giant fucking dick for this actress to hang on like she's small.
I can't say that shocks me at all, because
it's amazing.
Well, in one of the previous seasons of The Boys, where homie shrunk down and went.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. It's up that alley. It's up that alley. Yeah.
It's so fascinating to me, the fact that this franchise, compared to the other Garth Ennis, stuff that they tried to do like Preacher before.
He actually quit smoking, Corey. So 4:30 movie was made completely sober. He hasn't smoked weed in a few months now.
Yeah.
Since he went into the mental institution.
Yeah, which is, as much as I love Kevin Smith,
it's sad to hear. It was sad to hear. Yeah, really, but yeah, Gen V is a lot of fun. If you're fans of The Boys, there's so many, horror aspects to it. It's not strictly horror, but there's so many horror aspects that it's worth watching for sure. All right, so moving on from Gen V.
I'm such a big fan of Garth Ennis, though, and the fact that Preacher didn't take and that this show did.
Corey. He hasn't smoked in about 6 months at this point. All right, so the next one I want to talk about is Hollywood Dreams and Nightmares, the Robert Englund story. This is available on Screambox. I just finished it earlier today. This is the definitive Robert Englund documentary. They spend a good chunk on Freddy, but it's a 2-hour documentary, and a good hour plus is not Freddy material.
Okay, so it's like Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, it goes through all of it. Yeah, no, it starts with his his earliest stuff and goes all the way up, and they even spend a chunk on the 2000s low budget phase that he went through, all the way up through Fear Clinic and stuff like that. It's actually a very comprehensive documentary, and it's a really well made documentary. This is one of the better documentaries in the horror genre for sure.
It's actually from some friends of ours, man. The same peeps who did the RoboCop documentary.
RoboDoc, which I haven't watched yet.
Yeah, and they also did the story of it, or Pennywise story of it.
Oh, okay.
And also Unearthed, the story of Pet Sematary.
Okay.
It's the same dude, man.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, this was a really well-made documentary. I think this is worth a lot of... If you haven't watched this yet, if you don't have Screambox, it's worth checking out. Screambox is $5 a month, and they have a lot of good shit. Another documentary that's on Screambox I'm going to be talking about in just a minute, the Living with Chucky documentary, is also phenomenal.
Which I haven't watched.
They have also a Hellraiser documentary that I haven't watched yet that I'm imagining is going to be just as good. So Screambox is pretty dope. If you're willing to part with $5 a month,
I was gonna say
it's definitely early Shudder material.
Yeah, they are bloody disgusting affiliate streaming service.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
So yeah, Hollywood Dreams and Nightmares, the Robert Englund story, is a wonderful documentary that you should give it a try. Movie Mike says, love this documentary, so damn good, and Robert Englund is vastly underrated as a character actor. I agree. I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
I do as well. Yeah.
All right, so very interesting looking documentary. Yeah, it's wonderful. Give it a try if you haven't. Next is In Search of Darkness 3. Now, I started this. I didn't get through it yet. All these documentaries are the same.
It's been so...
I mean, it's just a documentary talking about... It highlights movies from the 80s.
Yeah.
And there's been some controversy about this particular filmmaking group. And I'm not surprised, because we helped them with the first film as far as marketing goes. But then starting with the second film, they wanted like $80 for a Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck that. What kind? You're not doing shit for horror. Yeah, 4-hour documentary, sure. $80? No fucking way.
Yeah, and the big thing with this one, from what I recall, since I watched it so long ago, is the fact
this
that
was the last of the 80s movies.
Yeah, it's the third, and so they're scraping the bottom of the barrel about stuff that's actually, and this is not to talk shit or anything. It's just like, you guys have milked it significantly, which is why they're now veering to the 90s, and they're already crowdfunding.
Yeah, 90 to 94.
Crowdfunding or
asking
something,
for us to promote that
one,
too. I'm like, no, fuck
so,
off, guys. Well, I've been hearing that the money I have heard a rumor that the people behind it, the money they raise, have not been used strictly for the film and have been used to support them over the last number of years and stuff like that, and that's not what I'm about. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've been hearing. All right, so that's In Search of Darkness 3.
And that's why we are skipping over
Moving
that.
right past it. Now, the next one is something that I knew you'd be interested in. Just Desserts, the making of Creepshow. How was this documentary?
This was solid. I mean, it's the original Creepshow is, in comparison with the second one, like the second one has my personal favorite segment of the entire series, and we're incorporating, both, TV and how they've tried to rebrand it on Shudder and everything. It wasn't quite as comprehensive as I was expecting it to be, as far as just, I've seen so many things on like bonus features of this film, and I've owned various copies of it over the years, and they have new interviews with Nicotero. They obviously can't interview Mr. George anymore, and they didn't really have a lot with Steve in this that I was really thinking as far as to make it properly comprehensive. But I mean, Stephen King is getting old now. He's he's pushing 80, and he's he doesn't really give a lot of press unless he has a new film that's a new book that's actually coming out. So he kind of meandered around the bigger outlets like NBC and Good Morning America and whatever when he was releasing Holly. But I was a little disappointed with this one, and not to efface anything about my love for this film, but the fact that I feel like stuff is better put together on some of the bonus materials on the DVDs.
Damn, all right.
So
glad I never watched this then.
Yeah, I mean, it's only like around 70 or 80 minutes. So, but like the extent of what you would see on, some of these bonus features, because they put full length stuff on, these new releases. Like I think Arrow was the last people who put out the newest version of Creepshow. And this is its own thing, and I was a little disappointed. Anyway.
All right, so that's Just Desserts. The next one is another Fuego one with Kids vs. Aliens. How was this? It looked fun.
This film was cute.
Is the tagline really "fuck space"? That's funny.
Yeah, this is one. So they're all into professional wrestling, and they're making like amateur films and stuff early on at the beginning of the movie, which is really cool. And so it has kind of that Super 8 vibe, and different other stuff. It really doesn't start to go for it until the third act. It feels very pedestrianly PG-13. And then there's some stuff that happens in the third act where I was just like, oh, okay. When the alien invasion, when they're actually like taken onto the ships and everything, man, there's a couple kills that are pretty upsetting. And but it very much has like that nice horror comedy vibe. I think it's on Shudder now, if I'm not mistaken, or at least it was there for a hot minute. Yeah, this is one that I actually won a copy of from Coming Soon Net. They sent me a Blu-ray that
that's cool.
That I had planned. We were gonna send out from one of the boogie boxes, and so
cool. Well, I'd like to watch it.
It's still sitting around, but yeah. This one was fun. I especially like the familial dynamic that is going down between the brother and the sister, and how she's like kind of a goof, and she's hanging out with her little brother's friends and everything. But yeah, man, third act it goes for it, and there are a couple pretty primo kills. So Yeah.
All right, cool. So that's Kids versus Aliens. Yeah. The next one is one that I watched, Living with Chucky. This is also on Screambox. So this is a documentary. So this is a documentary made by the daughter of one of the effects artists from the whole series.
Okay.
And so it talks about, you know, the entire Chucky series. It goes through all the behind the scenes of all the movies. Obviously a little bit truncated, you know, a little bit quickly, but they have tons of people from the series giving interviews, and it's just a rumination on the Chucky franchise all the way up to when they find out that it's going to be a TV show and stuff like that. So
that's where they cut it
That's off. Where they basically cut it off. But it's so interesting and it's so fun, and they make it a real family thing because...
Did they talk about the remake?
No, they don't. They don't touch on the remake at all.
Different design for the character.
Yeah. Well, Dawn had nothing to do with that. And this is very much like... She feels like Dawn is like a surrogate father and stuff like that, you know.
Interesting.
In addition to her main father, who was the effects artist and stuff like that.
And that's what I was most curious about, because of the fact that, like, they were leaning heavily in the promotional stuff to, like, this girl, you know, woman, you know.
She
like,
doesn't even appear until the last third of the movie, quite frankly. Like, they keep it as a straight documentary as they go through everything, and then, like, the last 20, 30 minutes is her coming in and talking about how everything's like a family and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a really well-made documentary. She did an excellent job. I really appreciated Living with Chucky.
So did she direct it?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. She was the one that actually put it together and directed it.
Cool.
And she has a unique perspective because they actually have pictures of her when she's like 4 on the set of the original Child's Play and stuff. So it's really cool how it does make it feel like a very familial affair. You know, having made certain, you know, short films and stuff, when we make these things, it does get to feel like a family after a certain amount of time. So this is just really leaning into that, and Living with Chucky is a really great documentary. So if you have Screambox, it's very much worth your time.
Yeah.
Next up is something called Mayfair Witches. So this is the first season of another Anne Rice book. We did talk about Interview with the Vampire on the channel, which was also put together by AMC from the Anne Rice book. It was the new version of the story that actually sequelized the original film.
Yeah.
This is a whole new story talking about it's Anne Rice's witches.
Though, right?
I believe so. Yeah. I don't know. That wasn't made explicit in this season, but
yeah, they have books where they crossed over.
Oh, I didn't realize. Okay, yeah, no. So Alexandra Daddario, hubba hubba, gorgeous girl. But it's an interesting series. I didn't like it as well as the Interview with the Vampire series, but it is the tale of witches. I loved it. I thought it was great. Donna and I watched Mayfair Witches together. It was interesting. It was kind of a love story, but it was about a demonic figure that would haunt Alexandra Daddario as a witch that was trying to seduce her and stuff like that. It was engaging, it was entertaining, but ultimately it wasn't as good as the Interview with the Vampire reboot.
From like a sapphic aspect or something?
It was interesting. It was interesting and entertaining enough to justify the watch, but it wasn't as satisfying as Interview with the Vampire was.
Well, they renewed both of them, man. You know.
And Cobra Kai says Daddario is fire. 100%.
Yeah, she is very pretty.
Gorgeous. All right, so moving on from Mayfair Witches, we're kind of cruising here because we had like 43 things to talk about. The next one is Missing. So I got to this relatively recently.
Yeah, I saw this in theaters.
Yeah, I missed it in the theater, but I did watch it recently. I watched it with Morgan, and this was not as good as Searching.
Not even
nowhere near as good as Searching. It's by the same team.
Yeah, I like Storm Reid a lot, man.
And I was actually, this is Storm Reid, so this chick played the Nun in The Nun too.
Exactly.
Okay, I get it. I knew I had seen her before. I couldn't think of where. But Missing, what was interesting about Missing was I thought she was going to be the one to disappear. I didn't realize that it was going to be her trying to figure out what happened to her mom. So, like, that was a fun twist, but it was ultimately nowhere near as interesting as John Cho trying to find his kid.
Not at all. I'm trying to see what else Storm Reid has done, because there is
this and The Nun too, as far as I know.
Yeah, there was a terrific film that had kind of a time jumping aspect that I saw last year that she was involved in, and you know, it was a very captivating relationship with her father. You know, from a filmmaking prowess aspect, like this still was really good. You know, I had issues with the writing in this, honestly, man. Most notably, where, you know, just being able to bypass people's two-factor authentication and just very easily get into, like, there was very much like a super easy, barely an inconvenience, like, you know, just sort of check your brain in at the door for what she is able to do, you know, with her friend and everything. But from a performance standpoint, I mean, she was really captivating, but this definitely felt like a lesser sort of entry into this, you know, click sort of god damn it,
this laptop horror.
Yeah, that's the term that I was searching for.
All right, so that's missing. Moving right along, this next one is the next couple are Fuego. So Next Exit. Do you remember enough about Next Exit to talk about it?
In January, and this is definitely a skipper, unfortunately.
All right, we're gonna skip Next Exit.
Sorry.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Nocebo?
This one I just watched this past week.
Oh,
and I
you
love
better be able to fucking talk about it then.
Man, I love Eva Green, man.
This is okay. Oh, yeah, Eva Green, not
Eva
what
Green,
I.
Eva Green. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm probably mispronouncing. And the name of the husband, which a lot of people will recognize as well. I just want to, you know, Mark Strong is in this as well.
Oh, Mark Strong. Okay.
Yeah, as her husband.
Sinestro from Green Lantern.
Yeah.
The bad guy from Kick-Ass.
So this is one where a woman is essentially kind of slowly losing her mind, and she's done some very terrible things, and so there is almost like a repression aspect, and there is somebody who randomly shows up from a third world country who is like, oh, you called me, and I'm here to, you know, be your babysitter and help you out because you're having this tough time after a tragic thing happened. They don't allude to what the tragic thing happened until the very end of the movie.
Okay.
And minor spoiler, it's of her own doing, and it deals with misuse of third world workers and everything, but also deals with, you know, just this woman who randomly shows up who has something very resentful going on and was kind of part of... It's really tough because of the way that this film is edited, and it's not bad. It's really not, but it's not like immensely engaging. The previous film that I saw from this director was Vivarium, which was with
engaging.
Which was with Imogen and Jesse Eisenberg and everything.
Nighttime sends a $5 super chat saying the first 3 In Search of Darkness Blu-rays are listed on eBay right now for $370. God damn.
That's bonkers.
That's insane. Anyway, moving right along.
Yeah, but Nocebo, I mean, I'm a big fan of Eva Green, and she definitely sells her torment very well, but yet the fact that she is in fashion, and as you find out as the narrative unveils itself that there is massive worker exploitation going on, it's not quite horror, you know. It's very much about the fact that there are people who, you know, for their own monetary gains are, you know, taking advantage of third world workers, and I guess that's the best way that I could describe this movie. She is great in it. Strong is great in it. In a, you know, lesson role, he doesn't have like tons and tons of stuff to do. It's very much, you know, her and the interactions with this girl who just randomly shows up. I'm trying to remember if she's from the Philippines or, in any event, Eastern Asia. Shows up at her door mysteriously and claims that she's trying to help her, but yet there is also like a passing off of, you know, kind of a residual spiritual presence that's going on between her and a growing relationship with the daughter of Eva Green's character. I feel like I'm dancing all around this because of the fact that just the way that it's constructed is to keep you in mystery. Yeah, it's on Shudder. It's not bad, but I had some issues. Sorry.
Next is Pet Sematary Bloodlines. Fuego hasn't had a chance to watch this yet, and I tried to watch it with Robert last night. We included it because I figured I'd be able to get through it, but guys, I fell asleep watching this movie. About a half hour in, I was out, so we did not get a chance to actually finish this movie, so don't count our review. Fuego's going to do a review.
I'm going to do a
films
solo.
that have forgotten the face of their father on the Hail to Stephen King side of things. So you can stay tuned for that, but I wanted to at least let you know, since it was on the poster or the thumbnail, I thought we'd get to it and be able to finish it, but I was just passing out because it was just so not interesting last night.
Yeah, and I had finals this past week, and there was a lot of other stuff going on. I was revising a paper yesterday as well, and so from the indications that I have seen from some of our fellow reviewers, it's about as bad as what I was kind of expecting. I actually really like Mary Lambert's Pet Sematary too, with John Connor. I think that one is not too terrible, man, but I know Duchovny's in this. I know it's a prequel to the 2019 film, so still an interesting area to explore, in the fact that, like, just seeing Judd Crandall having his initial situation, his initial interaction with this. So for that reason, I mean, there's still an element of curiosity, obviously, but.
Moon Mike says, cannot wait to hear Fuego's take on Pet Sematary, hoping he can convince me it's not as bad as I think it was. Corey Novak says, I thought this one was pretty good. Wow, surprising. Okay, all right. But I also thought Exorcist Believer was pretty good, so I'm a damn maniac, I guess. We liked Exorcist Believer, too.
I liked Exorcist Believer.
I don't know that we'll like Pet Sematary, but it'll be interesting to find out. No, we liked Exorcist Believer. We weren't the haters that everyone else is. All right, so moving on from Pet Sematary Bloodlines, the next one is a Fuego one, which is Resident Evil Death Island.
So this is the third of these CGI films that they have done. I think it takes place between 6 and 7, if I recall correctly.
Damn, okay.
But it teams up pretty much all of the major characters, man. So, I mean, you obviously have Jill, you have Leon, you have, both of the siblings are there. I'm kind of over these haphazard sort of. I mean, it was fine when they were putting them directly on Netflix, but I actually spent $6 to rent this one, and it's $6 measly. I know, guys.
It adds up when you watch as much as we do.
Yeah, it does, and that's where it really makes me wonder where Jason Smith is. He rents so much, man. It's crazy. But yeah, it takes place primarily in a prison, and there is a vengeful person who is trying to extract some sort of revenge on our main characters because of the fact that they're kind of protecting those responsible for the T-virus to a degree. I was so underwhelmed by this. It's been a few months since I've watched it.
Okay, fair enough.
At this particular point as well. The action was good, though. CGI is good. This really harkens to what was started, I think, in a lot of ways with Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, and then these are continued to be made by some of these gaming companies. It just doesn't really add a lot, man. I mean, you see all the familiar faces. It's just not. It's not really doing too much. And as somebody who hasn't actually played some of the more recent games, I felt a little lost about some of the references that were being made, like about Jill Valentine getting this amnesia and having been evil at one particular point, and that's about it. It's not a hard recommendation, unfortunately.
So the next thing is a Fuego thing as well. Let's see. Hang on, let me go back.
Boys, what do we got?
It is Servant, the final season.
I gotta bypass this.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's no good on Servant. All right.
Yeah.
So the next one is a Shudder release called Sharksploitation. I did watch this. This is a documentary all about the evolution of shark movies in cinema, which was actually really entertaining. So it starts all the way back with like Jaws and like even earlier shark movies that I had no idea about. There was a few of them and stuff. Black and white situation and stuff like that. But it talked about Jaws and the evolution of the sequels, and then how Deep Blue Sea almost brought it all back, and then how the sort of straight to DVD market really blew up a bunch of low budget shark things, and then it dives into the Sharknado of it all, and it talks about the shallows, and it talks about like it really just touches on sharks' play, like the animal, the shark's place in cinema. It's so entertaining, and it's a really well-made documentary. So Sharksploitation, I think, is worth every minute that it's on, especially if you're a shark movie fan, because it really caters to you. It lets you know stuff about movies that you didn't realize. You know, they do some behind-the-scenes stuff, and it's just really entertaining. Did you watch this one?
Did not. Okay. Yeah. I know this was a Shudder release, and I mean, especially for the sheer fact that
Vegemite. Take care. Hope your cat's okay.
Yeah, especially for the sheer fact that I just adore shark cinema so much, man. I mean, this is most definitely one that I wish I could have had the time for.
It's definitely worth it. Tekken Combat in the chat. Good to see you, Tekken Combat. A mixture of two great games. She Came from the Woods. Do you remember this one?
Campy and awful.
Okay.
That's about the extent of what I can remember. This is one that actually had a limited theatrical release.
Okay.
And very, very much embodying the 80s throwback sort of silliness, but kills weren't very interesting. The acting was kind of meandering. It was not a memorable one, unfortunately.
Fair enough. Yeah. Guys, just so you know, there's a Discord in the chat, or in the description box. If you want to join the Discord, we're going to do a live chat with people on the Discord after this stream is over. So go ahead and click the link in the description box if you haven't joined the Discord yet. Check that out, and we're going to do a live chat afterwards. Next up is Kevin Williamson's Sick. That was from earlier in the year.
So then did you finish this one?
I did watch this one, yeah. Okay, and I thought it was... I'm so tired of stabby horror movies. Yeah. Like, knives aren't scary. I'm tired of it. Knives aren't scary. You slash a throat, you stab someone, and that's fucking it. There's zero creativity in stabby horror, which is part of why I didn't like Totally Killer as much as everyone else did. Because it's about the Sweet 16 killer. He stabs his people 16 times, and that's... But every victim is stabbed 16 times, and that's how they die. That's not creative. It's just stabby.
Yeah,
no,
that's much
not
more
interesting.
So,
and Sick was just stabby, but with quarantine masks on.
Yeah. Which and this was very much one of those films where we were just, I'm kind of over.
Stabby says movie Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of over the reveling and remembering the pandemic, man. I really am about trying to put it behind us, and this is another one of those films where, based on the fact that
it's like, remember the pandemic, guys?
Yeah, and it's like no,
it was horrible.
None of us really want to.
We don't want to revisit that at all.
And the fact that we have a couple friends who were chilling.
Kablixit says I love slashers.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, a couple films
the
that are at this
stabby
house,
over and over. Do you love that, really?
Yeah, but even I give Kevin Williamson a lot of credit, man, because of what he has done that I found so captivating and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like this was a much more pedestrian effort from a dialogue standpoint, more so than anything else. And despite the fact that I don't remember massive aspects about this one, I didn't hate it, but I was very much underwhelmed about the fact that I thought that it was going to be very sharp, slick, quick quips and everything.
And it wasn't that. It wasn't that different. It felt very rote. It felt like everything we've seen before.
Yeah. And that's why it went directly to Peacock,
I agree.
as opposed to having any sort of theatrical release, because you would think
it's pee-pee and caca.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, just based on his pedigree, man, between Scream and even to a lesser degree, I Know What You Did Last Summer, or even, God forbid, Dawson's Creek, which I can admit to have watched.
All right, so we're moving on from Sick. Let's talk about Skinamarink. We are one of the only channels that have not talked about this. Did you ever give it a try?
I did.
Robert and I tried it. We got about 5 minutes in, and that was it. I was not going to waste my time. It did not feel like anything from the first 5 minutes was going to be any different going forward.
I will legitimately give them. I will legitimately give them credit for just being able to do something on such a hideously low budget, make it look that old, with the grainy feel and everything. Just the disappearing parents. There is there is not a lot to captivate me about this film, and I really hate to condemn a film.
Condemn a film.
Yeah, I was about to say thank you. The end of my Modelo. But
5 minutes. I'm impressed you got that far.
Yeah, I respect the fact that they were able to make so much money with this movie.
Good for them.
And Jonathan Barkin.
I'd rather fail gloriously than have a movie like this do well.
Yeah, I mean, I know Barkin, who was formerly with Bloody Disgusting, was a producer on this, and some of the other guys.
Yeah, Ghost Pirate says it's very interesting to me. So I love how we can agree on so many, but sometimes we completely disagree. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't.
So you liked Skinamarink, Kanan?
Yeah, this was a.
Why? It's not that Ugh.
It was deliberately experimental. I know that it.
Yeah, I turned that crap off and put on RoboCop.
Yeah, dude, it did not do it for me.
It didn't do it for me either.
I stuck it out significantly longer than you, and
it was totally incoherent.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes, but that's the
beautiful thing about art. Every opinion is subjective and correct
absolutely,
for that person. Yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
And that's something I contend constantly.
I love that people loved it because I tell you what, I liked the auteur aspect of it. Like the art version of Skinamarink is what I appreciate about it. It's not scary. It's not story driven in any sort of coherent way, but it is an art piece. And I give it credit for being an art piece. Yeah. Skinamarink you could hang on the wall of a museum as far as an art piece goes. That doesn't necessarily mean it's good, but it means it's unique enough to have a space on the wall for art. You know what I mean? At least to me. It wasn't for me, but I can see how a lot of people would really love it. If I watched it when I was a kid, when I was in my teens and I watched Skinamarink, I might be like,
maybe it would have freaked you out
that's
a little
fucked
bit
up.
more.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. Nighttime sends a $2 super chat. Eraserhead is awesome. Skinamarink had nothing. We do have an Eraserhead review on the channel, but it is on our Patreon.
Myself and Marsha Parker had one.
Yep. Yeah. So Patreon is only $1 a month if you want to join in the description box. By the way, just so everyone knows, there is a Q&A. The Dylan's New Nightmare Mad Monster Q&A is available on our Patreon. $1 a month. Join the Patreon and watch that if you want. Movie Mike says, to me it just felt like something did not have a compelling reason for being made. Fair enough.
I think that's a really good way of just properly classifying it, because of the fact that there are certain situations where like if I can make the music comparison, where you're trying to sound bad, you're going deliberately lo-fi, and you're really just, I don't know, trying to be lo-fi experimental. I listen to a lot of that sort of noise rock stuff, or like experimental prog, and it's definitely not my favorite stuff, because there just doesn't feel as often like there's a clearer focus, and yet maybe the lack of focus from what the finished product entailed is actually what they were going for. I just don't know, but this one was not for me, and I tried it twice, dude.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
no,
I did. I most
Nighttime says, I get it, but it was not for me. No patience for this type of film.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's
Ghost Pirate says, no, I liked Sick. I respect Skinamarink, but it wasn't my bag either. I liked Sick. Okay, Sick, I mean, Sick was just a little too derivative to me.
Yeah.
So, next I'm going to talk about Skull Island Season 1. This is something that I added. So, this was the Kong Skull Island animated series about two young boys that get stranded on Skull Island and separated from their fathers. And they ultimately have to try and recruit Kong as someone to help them fight the horrors on Skull Island to survive it. I believe it was 8 episodes. I watch cartoons before I go to sleep, so Skull Island was one that I put into the rotation. It was fun. It's nothing that I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait for season 2. But it's a bit darker than like the Jurassic World series that we just got, Camp Cretaceous. It's darker than that, and it's straight animation. It's not CG.
And both being Netflix.
But I think Skull Island was a good time, and I think it's worth your time as just a short series to have some fun.
Yeah, because the episodes are, I would imagine, like
they're like half hour. Yeah.
Minutes,
So Skull Island season 1 is worth
Seal
your time.
Seal of approval. Okay.
Yeah, especially if you have kids, because so the 2 male characters are here shown, and then there's a female that's been living on the island that helps them out, and her pet is this giant like wolf dog here next to her that they all ride and stuff like that. So
interesting.
It's fun.
So then, does it actually tie in with the live action film that we saw a number of years ago?
Yeah, they mention the events.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they mention the events. It takes place after Kong Skull Island because that was in the 60s.
That was my next question.
But yeah, it takes place closer to today, but it's really entertaining. So, whatever happened with the Kraven the Hunter movie? They're still working on it.
No, they just bumped it because of the writers' strikes and everything.
There you go.
Writers and actors strikes.
Makes sense.
And so yeah, that's where it got delayed. It was supposed to come out this month, if I recall correctly. And
so the next one is one I never got around to seeing, Fuego, but you had it listed.
See if I remember
Sorry About the Demon. Skip it.
Yeah, this is one that was so friggin' long ago, dude.
All right.
Yeah.
Skipping Sorry About the Demon.
Yeah.
It's all right. Now this one you remembered because you just were talking about it. Spoonful of Sugar.
I just watched this.
So what's Spoonful of Sugar? How was that?
Oh, there are a few things that just kind of aggravate me as much as this film did, and once again, art is subjective, personal opinion, man. I watched this week along with Nocebo.
Okay.
So you have a girl who is, she's not even so much like full-on con artist, but she's trying to make herself seem a little bit better than she actually is, and go and be kind of a live-in babysitter of sorts for this, I guess, maybe autistic child. There's issues with this kid, and yet it veers into this like weird, her having sexual fantasies about him as she's taking experimental, like for whatever reason she has LSD, and you can see that in the promo poster.
Okay.
Her character is unsavory and kind of crazy, and yet pretty much everybody in this, it ties it together interestingly in the finale when you get to know the true nature of the child, but it's just tough when you see scandalous behavior and it just like kind of bugs you, and that is most definitely what is going down in this film. It's very Lolita status in how she is trying to like appeal to the married man who is there in this home that she's working, and I just don't find that sort of stuff compelling. Okay. And yet there are some interesting aspects to like the trip out factor of when she's actually taking this stuff, and then she in turn goes and starts like trying to get other people to hallucinate in the household, and she thinks she's doing it for good, and it's really kind of weird in that regard. But the lead actress just really bugged me, not from a performance standpoint, because of the fact that you're not, in my estimation, supposed to like her. She's acting so slimy, and trying to mess up a household, and sometimes the subject matter of a film is what really can just derail it for you, I would say. So yeah.
All right, so that's Spoonful of Sugar. Next up is The Black Demon, which I watched on Prime. Apparently this is one of the bigger watches on Prime, so much so that a sequel may have been greenlit already.
No kidding.
This was a straight-to-DVD Megalodon movie.
It was briefly in theaters.
It was brief. Was it? Okay.
Yeah, it was limited release in theaters.
We did a trailer reaction to it, and it was just really sad. It's about a small town
too, right?
that has been cursed because of the arrival of a creature as a result of the drilling of a offshore oil rig. And so the oil rig has been cursed, and people there's a giant shark that is stalking the area and taking out anyone that tries to approach or leave the oil rig. And so it becomes a quest for survival for a family that has arrived to try and fix the situation as to why the rig is no longer profitable and stuff like that. So it's very simple storytelling with a very CG megalodon shark that, you know, is okay. It's definitely not good. It's not even as good as the silly Meg 2. But
I saw some people touting the fact that this was the R-rated Megalodon
bullshit.
movie that came out this year and blah blah blah.
Nope, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Nope, it's not that good. I don't even feel like it was R-rated. Like, if so, it was completely...
It did get the R rating, yeah. I mean, they were using it.
It wasn't because of the gore, because there was nothing that we hadn't seen before in here. There might have been, like, blood trails after it eats someone, which is not something you see in the Meg, because it just swallows everyone whole in the Meg, apparently.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the Black Demon is not worth your time. I would say skip it. Black Demon was junk, says Ghost Pirate Entertainment, so fair enough. Next is the first season of The Last of Us. Yes, that's right. We never got around to actually reviewing this. I watched all of it, and I think it was a really great version of the story from the video game. There was not enough of a difference to make it feel like it's its own thing. It definitely just felt like a live-action version, but that means that there's some shortcuts that had to be taken for the characters, and I don't know if we'll ever actually get to see what those repercussions for doing so are, but it's entertaining enough, and in the world, like, building this relationship that you care so much about them towards the end is the way to go. So I really loved the first season of this show. Did you get to watch it? Okay.
No, definitely did not. I've heard that the episode with Nick Offerman
That's a great one.
is legitimately one that is just as captivating and tragic and heartbreaking as just about anything else in the series.
It does hurt. It's a gorgeous relationship that's ruined by the zombie apocalypse. So, all right. So that's The Last of Us TV show. Touched on it briefly. Do you remember The Offering well enough to talk about it, or is that a skipper? Super chat from
I was about to
$2
say,
super chat.
How
much could Dylan's New Nightmare 2 budget be? The Dylan's New Nightmare 2 budget would probably be anywhere from $500 to $700,000. I mean, it would need to be probably at least $300 to $500 to do what we want right. If we wanted to do it perfectly, then yeah, it would be closer to higher. But we don't know for sure because we don't even know exactly what direction we'd go with it. We have a few different story paths that we can take, and it all depends on who we have involved going forward to determine that. So, Nighttime says, I turned the Black Demon off. It lost me. And the Meg 2 was about to say, yeah, the Meg 2 was rough. Excuse me.
Yeah.
It was really rough.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Cobra Kai, 2 episodes stood out in the first season of Last of Us, Nick Offerman and the one with the bloater. Okay, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
So, what were you going to say?
So, The Offering was an interesting film from a Jewish standpoint that now, as I took a peek at it, I'm remembering a little bit better. So this is one that deals much more so with like the cultural kind of contentions that you have when you're marrying outside of, you know, what they like. He chose not to marry a Jewish girl, and it caused some kind of frustration from his father. His father is a morgue worker. This one, if I recall correctly, actually had some major Autopsy of Jane Doe vibes about how there is a presence at this mortuary that our lead character's father, resides and works at and everything. But yeah, it was really much more so about the just conflict amongst, you know, somebody marrying outside of their race and how that can be perceived by certain traditional people as a bad thing, and like dispelling how, you know, you should not have those sort of resentments. And that was really more so at the heart of the movie. This is another more tragic sort of story about what actually transpires as things progress throughout it. But yeah, it was solid from an acting standpoint, from the fact that we're talking about, like, you know, Hasidic Judaism, and it wasn't The Ritual. It was the film that I saw last year that it gave me vibes of, where the guy was supposed to sit and like watch over the body in Jewish rituals after the vigil. That's what it was. Yeah. It gave me major vibes of that as far as from like a cultural standpoint, and I mean, well put together. It was another one that's limited theatrical and migrated over to VOD, and was still pretty good. This is actually one that I would recommend. Yeah.
All right. So next up is something called The Pale Blue Eye. Do you remember this well enough to talk about it?
I do. This is the oh goodness, it's
Christian Bale.
Yeah,
know that much.
Oh, I know. I see him on the poster there. No, this is one about.
Damn, that was January 6th. Also, holy shit.
Yeah. That's why. I mean, trying to recall stuff from like 8 months ago.
That's okay. Like if you can't, I can move on. Like,
yeah. Fine. No. This is one that actually stood out to me, and it's because of the fact that it had the. Oh boy, it's not. It's the Poe vibe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Poe.
Yeah. So his character actually encounters Edgar Allan Poe, and the actor looks spot on, just very much, and everything else that he was doing is kind of eluding me, unfortunately, which just really stinks. It's late 1800s. It's goodness, goddamn, man. That's the tough thing when stuff when stuff isn't fresh. It's tough.
We just gotta communicate better so I don't pull posters for ones we can't talk about.
Yeah, I know.
I thought The Pale Blue Eye was okay, says Cobra Kai.
Right. It's not of like the extreme sort of horrific variety. It's more so just like the exploration
thrillerish.
Dramatic thrillerish of Christian Bale's character and everything that he is enduring, and the guy who plays Poe is only a minor character who was encountered a few times, but really helps to, kind of push him forward with certain reckonings that he's encountering, I guess. So.
All right, so let's move on to The Pope's Exorcist. Now, we missed this when it dropped in the theater. I finally caught it. Did you watch this?
I saw it in the theater.
Okay, well, we never talked about it on the channel.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. I enjoyed this film. I thought it was fun.
I liked it a lot, too.
Yeah, Russell Crowe is so much fun when he's just, like, leaning into a role, and when he, like, talks shit to the rest of the religious council. Like, okay, whenever you can figure out how to do a demon thing without me, you let me know. Like, essentially all that shit. I thought it was a really fun exorcism movie. Yeah. That's coming from someone that actually liked Exorcist Believer, though, so maybe that diminishes my opinion in some people's minds. But The Pope's Exorcist was a lot of fun, and I wouldn't mind seeing Russell Crowe return to do more of these installments.
It's actually been greenlit for a sequel.
Has it
already.
really?
It has.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and so these are based on like the true real life experiences of this particular individual who was the Pope's exorcist. He was like the main go-to, and I just love the fact that he's derping around on his little moped, and he's such a quirky character, and boozing and all so this different stuff. And
Cobra Kai, Russell Crowe made it much better than it would have been. Pope's Exorcist was really solid, says Movie Mike.
Exactly. It was entertaining, man. And,
I agree.
And because everything else about it was kind of generic in a lot of ways.
A lot of it. I liked
really,
the way the eyes worked in this, if I recall correctly.
I like the confrontation at the very end, man, where they went into the underground area and all of that different just craziness was transpiring. I also like the fact that I've really enjoyed that actress whose name eludes me, who was in Starry Eyes, and she reprised the role of the mother in the Dr. Sleep sequel to The Shining. I thought she's a really, really strong presence. That the kids were kind of irritating, but whatever. It was really just the oddness of his character and the way that he embodied it so well. And the fact
he's
that
so
he was
engaging as a character.
In fact that he was very, very flippant and like just.
Well, that's what makes him fun.
Yeah, and very.
He's the rock star of the Exorcist people. You know what I mean?
Truly is. And from a directorial standpoint, this is another one that impressed me a lot because of the fact that the same guy who did Overlord did this, and I felt like there was just a essence of prowess, and there was like a very sharp eye for the way that he constructed a lot of scenes, even if they, from a storytelling standpoint, may have felt significantly more generic. Man, I mean, I I saw a lot of people hate on this, but you know, it's another one that I'm not gonna die in the hill for it or anything, you know. But
it was fun for a big budget exorcism movie. Like, I'm glad it was as entertaining as it was.
I was very entertained, and the fact that they have
better than The Nun 2.
Yeah, actually, I would agree with that. Yeah, I would totally agree with that sentiment. And I saw this like right around the same time that I saw Renfield, and you know, both were filmed. Excuse me, burping. Gross. Yeah, bad. But yeah, both were films that I saw some people like. There was kind of a divisive sort of discourse about it, but I don't know. I was entertained and I enjoyed it, and Russell Crowe was what made it. Just like the film from a few years ago during the pandemic, where he was like in rage mode and
Unhinged. That's a great movie.
I like that movie
that's
too, dude.
Great.
I thought he was
that's
really
such a great like 90s style thriller.
Yes, very much a throwback to that sort of mentality.
Loved it.
Yeah. So Russell still has it, man. Even if he's kind of fallen out of the prominence of like A Beautiful Mind and Gladiator, and when he was getting nominated for Oscars,
he's still entertaining as fuck.
I think so too.
Movie Mike says League's better than The Nun 2. Different class of filmmaking. Nighttime says The Nun 2 is a remake of The Nun. Yeah, essentially.
In a lot of ways.
All right, so that's The Pope's Exorcist. Let's move on. Now, the next one, I didn't even know it was available on Paramount Plus. I'm going to watch. I didn't get a chance to watch this.
Yeah.
I am so excited to watch this because I loved the first one. Tell me Wrath of Becky is just as entertaining as the first one, please.
It's a little bit of a step down, unfortunately. It really is, man. I mean, Sean William Scott, dare I say, is a standout, though, as the villain in this film, dude. Because he is just out of control as this white supremacist who is employing far derpier people in his estimation. This one, there's an essence of believability to the way that she was able to just go after these guys in the previous film, which had the King of Queens guy. But yeah, this one is a little bit cheesier, a little bit more over the top. You have to amplify with a sequel as far as you know the cheese factor goes. There is a very villainous woman who is right there with Sean William Scott as far as being engaging and compelling. And Lulu Wilson, man, I mean, you know, going back to her work on Haunting in Hill House, she has continued to captivate, and she is so much more vicious in this movie, despite the fact that I feel like the budget was a little bit less, and like the gore wasn't quite as there in comparison with some of like the pencil stuff and whatever in the previous film. And also the fact that they, like, one exception that I took with this was that I feel like compared to the previous film, they try to sexualize her a little bit more so.
Oh, really?
And I didn't really like that very much. You know, but that's just, you know, the prude Christian upbringing of me. But
so Sean William Scott is the Kevin James of this movie.
He is, yes,
okay.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
interesting.
Yeah. So he is the stand-in, and he is somebody who, like, as far as what transpires, I mean, it's not family members being killed. She's an orphan in this, and trying to find her way, and something bad happens with who has taken her in. You know, animal stuff, which may be a big trigger for somebody. Yep. You know, so
and I see a dog on the poster there, so that makes me concerned.
It's not great, but the film is very much, if you're a fan of the previous flick, you will most definitely see the amplification and the elevation of her character becoming so much more vengeful, embracing her own personal hatred, which, you know, the seeds were sown for in the previous movie when her father gets killed, you know.
No, I'm excited to watch this.
It's good.
I didn't realize it was on Paramount Plus until I saw that it was on the list. I was like, where is this streaming? It's like Paramount Plus. I was like, fuck off out of here. I never saw it on the Paramount Plus, like, now streaming. Otherwise I would have watched it way sooner. And it very much
sets it up for more stories.
Oh, good. Yeah. I love it. I love the Becky character, so I'm excited to watch it. Maybe I'll find it worth doing a regular review. We'll see.
Yeah.
Lol Life. I love this username. LOL, but the last L is Life is Forever. Love Becky and the Wrath of Becky. Doctor Sleep was better than It Chapter 2. Honestly, I agree. Doctor Sleep was really entertaining.
I agree.
All right, so let's
move on. As the big Stephen King person, I mean, Flanagan versus yeah.
So I didn't watch this one. There's something wrong with the children. Do you remember that well enough to talk about it?
Okay. I do. So this is a film that first and foremost pointed me out to some very fantastic music that I'm a big fan of. But this is very much about two children being just. I mean, there's no explanation really as to the possession aspect, but it's very profound. And these two kids, after this camping trip that this family goes on, where they're staying in this cabin, they go like full blown evil, and they go into this like weird underground like it's very much vibes of. Oh goodness, something in the dirt, was that or
yeah,
not something in the dirt?
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay.
Oh goodness, the fucking A, the one where the boy just went into. I know I'm not being specific at all. I will veer back to this one in the fact that there are cruelties that these children are embodying after going into this like sacred sort of spot. It's a brother and a sister. They're both being possessed. It's maybe one of my favorites of the year, and this is another one that's veering all the way back to January.
Okay,
no worries. So it's of the tougher regard. Parents are good. Parents are quarreling constantly, so that's maybe one of the major annoyances, because there's implications of infidelity, and yet the kids are there with fellow other friends, so it's two couples, and both of the kids are, just acting strange, and there's, as the title implies, something very wrong with the children.
Mm-hmm.
Oh goodness, this is from Roxanne.
It's alright.
No. I just want to double check because so this is from Roxanne Benjamin, and she did a film that you and I liked. She did some segments in Southbound, XX, and then Body at Brighton Rock.
Okay.
Which was the one where the girl was like stranded and injured and everything like that.
That was a festival feature.
Yeah, it was one of the festival features at IHSFF, and so this one was good without spoiling too many things. It definitely veers into sad, tragic territory as far as like just the breaking up of a family and stuff.
All right, well let's call it there.
It was a tough watch.
Next is To Catch a Killer. Do you remember this one enough to talk about it?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Go for it.
Yeah. So
we're winding down. We got 3 left, including this one.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah. We've been going for a hot minute. This is one that was actually recently requested by Sam Glass for like a more extensive review. This is one that was briefly in theaters that I actually rented. So there is somebody who on New Year's Eve, if I recall correctly, essentially just starts shooting up people.
Damn.
And just killing rando, sniper shooter sort of status. And as they're trying to investigate the situation, so Mendelsohn's character is from like the full-blown FBI, and the girl there has been just kind of pushed away and disregarded and disrespected by the rest of the men in the local law enforcement where she resides. And he sees something in her as far as her insight and her intuition to actually bring her on to help him track down this person. And it's very much more so of like the mystery, murder, thriller, sort of aspect, as opposed to going like really full-blown horror. Man, what happens to some characters at the end of this movie is totally messed up, and especially when you get the revelation of just the mindset of this person, because there is kind of one of those, without spoiling too much, there's like kind of a Seven-esque confrontation that happens near the end of this. Some may find it a little, too procedural and too plotting and everything, but I was really about it, man, especially with just, her coming into her own as a character, this actress, and the fact that Mendelsohn, they have like kind of a contentious relationship, despite the fact that he sees potential in her. He's still kind of giving her shit from time to time and keeping her on her toes, and it is very much about her journey as somebody who could really be so much more than just a local law enforcement person. And she had applied to the FBI previously, and he takes note of that as he does his examinations and everything. So it starts out really brutal. It goes into just a much more just slow, sort of state of, just character interaction and everything. But then the third act is really strong in this and gets quite brutal. And, major respect for this one. This was also...
I had it nowhere near my radar until you just...
This was also in theaters for a brief bit of time, and then
Shailene
it's
Woodley was from Fault in Our Stars.
I totally recognized her, but I just couldn't think of what I'd seen her in previously. But she's great in this, man, and the way that her and Mendelsohn kind of they butt heads, but the fact that he's kind of taken her under his wing as well is really it's cool, because he's trying to help her out. He's like, I see the potential within you. And then shit gets really bonkers as they finally track down this killer. So, yeah.
All right. I'm going to need you to move that light out of the way so we can bring Robert in here for his quick appearance. We got two left, you guys.
Boy, if he's going to jump on, I actually need to take a little...
Did you watch VHS or no? Okay, then, do you want to just say goodbye now then? And then I'll just...
No, I don't want to say
goodbye. Okay, well, all right. Well, we got two left to talk about. Welcome, Robert.
Howdy, folks. Howdy, dear.
So, Robert is here to discuss Viking Wolf, otherwise known as Viking Wolf.
Yes.
Robert, tell us about Viking Wolf.
Okay, so this is a movie directed by Stig Svensson. This, I believe, or written and directed. I believe this is his actual his first big directorial debut in it.
Okay.
He directed some smaller stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, so quick, recap on the story. So it's about a girl who recently moved into a small Norwegian town with her family.
Mm-hmm.
And during a party with some of her high school friends, they are viciously attacked by a giant wolf. And in that process, she is bitten and basically left for dead and all this other good stuff. And it basically follows her journey as she slowly starts transforming and learning about what's going on. The cool thing about this movie is they picked a lot from Viking mythology and things like that.
Okay.
So I definitely really enjoyed that. The cool thing, they did lean a lot for the slow transformation stuff, seeing her go through her changes was a lot of practical stuff.
Okay.
The wolf on itself, it's not your typical werewolf movie. It's not a bipedal. It's a quadrupedal
it's
giant
Twilight wolves.
No, it's better. It's not. Don't be throwing that shade in here.
It's giant wolves.
How dare ye?
Giant wolves.
How dare ye?
Giant wolves.
I will slap a hoe.
Giant wolves.
But no, this movie actually was really fun. Again, I liked the mythology aspect of it.
Okay.
And that's where I can let it go for not being your typical werewolf story.
Okay.
But her transformation, I think, was one of the cooler parts.
Okay.
I would definitely recommend this. I believe this is on Prime.
Okay.
I believe.
Movie Mike says, so American Wolf in London style wolf?
60-40, and
okay.
it's a big wolf and everything, but
big
it they designed it well. It looks scary. I would not
Okay.
want to come across this fucker in the
It
woods.
doesn't look the nicest on the poster there. So
No.
Yeah. All right, so that's
Hi,
Viking
Mike.
Wolf.
Hi, Movie Mike.
All right, so the last thing we got to talk about today is something that Fuego hasn't seen yet anyway, so I'm just going to dive into it while Robert's here. And that is VHS 85. So I think this is like the 5th or 6th installment of the VHS franchise. And I was surprised to see Chris Stuckman put up a very positive review of the film. Unfortunately, I did not agree with the positivity for this film. I watched it with Morgan. I wish she could pop her head in here. That'd be really funny if we could just get Morgan to squeeze in here for this. Go see if she's
dyeing hair. She's not available.
Oh, okay. So VHS 85 is another installment of the VHS anthological horror storytelling franchise. The difference is that this one is a bunch of stories that are taping over another story. So it's an interesting setup as far as the wraparounds, but it's, you know, I will just say, without breaking down the movie by its segments, it's just not that interesting. It wasn't done that intriguingly to me. Scott Derrickson's movie was interesting, Dream Killer, if I believe, or something like that. That one was okay. David Bruckner's installment was okay, but the whole thing felt uneven. You know, most anthologies, there's like a couple of really good stories and a couple of not great stories, and then a couple of interim stories. It's not far off of that typical formula, but I felt less connected with most of the stories here. There was one VR story where it was a girl doing a sort of a would-be interpretive dance to try and take down the oncoming VR craze, but as she put on the VR helmet, like a specter that only exists in VR attacks her and like slices her up on stage in front of everyone else. So like there was some interesting things and really cool things that were done, but ultimately it just didn't capture my attention the way certain installments have in the past.
So the previous VHS movies were a lot stronger than what this was?
Not a lot. Like, they're all a bit uneven, but this had less. I would say this had less strong points than some of the other ones did. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Overall, if you like the VHS franchise, give it a try, see what you think, but I was just a little disappointed with this particular installment, unfortunately. Let's see. Life is Forever says, I watched VHS for the first time last night. I'm working my way through the series. Can't wait for the 5th installment coming by Halloween. So this was the 5th one. Yeah, it just unfortunately didn't please the way I wanted it to. So, yeah, Fuego's back, guys. We're here to just say thank you very much for watching.
Come on over, buddy. I don't bite.
Neil, bitch.
Just, you know,
so, yeah, that's going to do it for our massive review roundup over the last 8 months. I mean, there were other things that we watched, but these were the main things that were worth discussing with you guys. So, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Robert the Wolfman.
Gracias. I mean, Fuego.
Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. And stay tuned. We have a lot more stuff coming at you in the near future.